I think it was back in 2017 or so, where Homeland Security flew out to California and they met with the 4 Satoshis. That's their words, not my own. So if you guys haven't seen that, you can check that out on X or whatever it is. But here's my long, I'm going to take a long analysis and make it really short, is that I think that Satoshi was a group. I think it was an intelligence organization. Now, anybody can debate kind of which intelligence organization it may be. I have my own assumptions, but I think that this all stemmed back from the same people who started in the PayPal mafia back in the early 2000s. If you listen to a lot of Peter Thiel's early content, they've known that the digital asset era was coming because this is how they're going to expand the US dollar and expand global finance. What's the real end game? Globalization. They want a global economy. They want a world without borders. They remind us that almost every single day. And a big part of that is having a currency without borders. And so my belief on the whole process is that when Bitcoin was originally created and launched as kind of this proof of work concept, the same developers who built the Bitcoin code, which would be David Schwartz and 3 others that we don't know, those same developers looked at the flaws in the network and then made an effort to create something better. And I think that's where Ripple, prior to being Ripple, was OpenCoin, really came into the mix. And here's a couple examples of that, right? Bitcoin, you mine, Ripple's pre-mined. Bitcoin, there is no centralized entity, but with the XRP ledger, there's no centralized entity, but there's a controlling factor with Ripple, right? Ripple is responsible for driving business onto the XRP ledger. This is another advantage. You also have cheaper, faster payments. You also have a finite supply. So I think they took a lot of the ideas that worked for Bitcoin and they tried to improve those. And that's when they launched Stellar and the XRP ledger. And what's really interesting about this, as I'm sure you guys have seen, is that over the weekend, a lot of emails came out. And I spent a lot of time digging into that stuff. And what's really interesting about those emails is that the same people who were creating Bitcoin and talking about the inception of Bitcoin, well, they were talking about Ripple and Stellar at that time. And a lot of people have said, look, it's like Ripple's the good guys and Bitcoin's the bad guys. I don't necessarily think that's what's happening at all. I think that's actually the inverse of what's happening in many ways. I think the same people who went out and created Bitcoin saw the flaws in the network and tried to create cheaper, faster, better products. And even back in 2014, Google Ventures invested directly into OpenCoin prior to it becoming Ripple. And what their goal was that they were going to create what is now Google Pay. So they were actually working with blockchain companies to create the first payment application where you were going to be able to send value through emails. So it's just really interesting when you see like the financial web that takes place. And if I could summarize it in one word, it's like there's a small group of people who control global finance. That's what I've realized with this entire narrative. So I hope I answered the question, but that's kind of where my head goes with that one.
You smashed it.
Hey, you made it to the end of the clip. That means you're probably enjoying this. And if so, just know that you can catch us live every Tuesday and Thursday at 12 p.m. Eastern. And if you want to see the full version of this episode, you can click the link in the description down below. Otherwise, YouTube thinks that you will enjoy this next.